is Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast about running, health, family, play, and an NSNG lifestyle. And now, here's your host, Ruel.
Excuse me as I rock on. That's Went Away by Dorothy Lane. Dorothy Lane out of Martinez, California. That's out of the Cut and Dry album. Check them out at dorothylanemusic.com. Yeah. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. It's your host, Ruel. How's it going? Yeah, it's another episode. I been wanting to talk about something for a while. It's just hard to really put it together, but I'm gonna do my best. First off, just want to let you guys know again, I'm driving. I'm heading to a Target. I need to get ink for the printer. Very important. You know, it seems, at least for my house, my household, printer ink is pretty important. Like it never was the thing when I was a kid, because there weren't computers and there weren't printers for computers and ink for the printer. Like back then when I was a kid, there weren't water dispensers on the refrigerator, so it didn't need a water filter. so we've got one of those refrigerators that dispenses, like a lot of refrigerators these days, dispenses ice and cubes of ice and crushed ice and water, and there's a filter in there. So I might have to consider, you know, when I buy things on Amazon, you know, there's some things that you can choose to put on a subscription because you use them regularly, so you figure you could stand to just get them regularly on a subscription. So I may have to switch on the water filter for the refrigerator as a subscription, and ink cartridges as well for the printer. God, you know. And if I don't need them that frequent, I'm just going to have to drink more water, and I'm going to have to print more prints. So that's where I'm heading. I don't know about you guys, but if I need something and I don't want to wait for a Target delivery and I think I could pick it up somewhere, my go-to is Target. And before I go to Target, I have to launch their app and select my local Target as my store on the app, and basically try to figure out from the app if they have the thing that I want in stock, right? And so I see that my items are in stock, you know, and I just hope that system is up to date and that the inventory is properly stocked to where where I'm expecting them to be, and you know, hopefully it's not in stock, but somewhere misplaced in men's underwear, because I'm not going to find ink cartridges at the men's underwear area. That would suck. But yeah, so that's that. Anyways, I forgot to say, welcome back, return listeners, and welcome new listeners. Welcome. This is a podcast about running something. And I'll talk about food, I'll talk about family, I'll talk about fun stuff, and I'll talk about, on occasion, fitness, health, and my exploits in jogging. Right. So, on sort of the health side, I might have mentioned in an earlier episode, but I'm at a point now where I'm like 355 days in of not having alcohol, and I have no issues, no desires. For some reason, I want to hit that year mark, and as a milestone. There's been milestones leading up to this, month to month, whatever, round numbers, right? 500 days, I'm not 500, but 100 days, 200 days, 6 months to 9 months, that kind of stuff, right? But I don't know. I mean, it's not like I hit a year and then I'm done and I'm gonna go grab a bottle. And no, it's more like hitting a year would prove to me how much I really believe in myself that the alcohol doesn't matter, right? And once in a while, I am reminded how strong that is, because I'll find myself in social situations, and I'm figuring that I've sort of evolved into enjoying whatever that social situation is as much as possible, and then I'd have to stop and think like, maybe I'll see somebody I know or some others, ordering drinks, having drinks, or just taking the time to actually get the drink, and maybe even going through the motions of handling the drinks and struggling with the drinks, all of those things. And I'm reminded about like, oh, wow, that doesn't have to be me anymore. I'm not that person anymore, And I like it. Like the other night we had guests over and there weren't any drinks out. And then, had another friend arrive who was having a pretty rough day or several days. And the one thing that she asked from me was, what am I drinking? And I'm like, oh, I'm not drinking because I quit drinking, so long ago. But, it was something that she needed, and and I happened to have some beers in the refrigerator, not inside. We have a second refrigerator in the garage, and I'm like, oh, I have some beers in the fridge if you want. She goes, okay. So I took them out, and she picked one. She doesn't ordinarily drink, but for at that moment in time, she needed something, and she's not really. I can tell she's like, which one's good? I'm like, yeah, I wasn't that type of drinker. I was just like, just give me a bottle of bourbon, and I'll drink it, right? Or even if it's no matter what brand, even if it wasn't bourbon, if it was just, I don't know, some other spirit, I'll be like, yeah, I'll have it. So I don't know, there must have been like 4 cans in the box, and so I'm like, here, have this one, and then the other guests that were there previously saw, like, oh, you have beer? I'm like, yeah, you guys want, and then they enjoyed some too. And which was fine, because those beers had been sitting in my refrigerator for a year and untouched. So, but so I had 3 guests at the house, each one having a beer, a can. And I think as the evening went on and they had finished their drinks, then I could see how, just that one can of beer was changing sort of the dynamic for the conversation and how it flowed. So I'm glad it's not me, because I already have a difficult time keeping my mouth shut. So the last thing I need is more lube to just keep me, regurgitating and puking and spewing my stream of consciousness. So yeah, I'm, hitting a year of of being alcohol free just will prove to me like, yeah, this is what it's supposed to be, and it's something that I get to sort of kind of in my mind as a badge of honor or something, right? And there are many people that I've come across who have gone 10 years, 20 years, and I'm just starting, right? And it feels good to be part of that path, right? And I just making that shift was just better. It's just been better altogether. And I've talked about it in the past where having a drink just made it too easy for me to not care about whether or not I stopped or continued to drink. I just didn't care. I didn't care if I was clean in my nutrition. I didn't care if I skipped a workout. I didn't care. It just whatever it was. And then it did make it also easier for me to get depressed. It made it easier for me to not have a handle on myself emotionally, I don't know, psychologically, and then I would have another drink, and then I would sort of like mask those challenges, falsely, and then continue to cycle probably, on and off. Like, oh, I'm depressed. Oh, the evening rolls around. I'm having a drink. I feel great, right? And then on and on and on and on. And it's just a rut. It's just, what is it? It's doing the same thing over again and expecting a change. But you're forgetting that you expected a change because, you kind of medicated. So, it took some time for me to be okay. And, my wife doesn't think that I was an alcoholic or I'm an alcoholic. And maybe I'm not, but it's easy for me to associate with being an alcoholic because my dad was one. He drank a lot of beer. So, to me, the alcoholic gene is in me, and I can't be those type of people who just like, on occasion, I'll enjoy a drink, like I'm out at Napa Valley and having cheese and wine and blah, blah, blah at a picnic, and then la-di-da, go on with the rest of my life. My personality, I think it won't allow that. I'd have to I'd be like either nothing or I'd just be all in, until I just feel sick. It's kind of like how I am with coffee. I have to control my coffee because I can easily just have too much coffee. I have this personality of extreme in some parts of my life, and I need to use sobriety as my solution. It's the extreme, just completely cutting it out. That's that. I mean, what's it going to be like if it's my kids are grown-ups and they have a wedding and they want to toast and stuff, champagne and whatnot? I'll toast. I won't sip. I just won't, right? Or I'll just have a glass of water or sparkling water. And, in my mind, by that time that ever happens, they would have understood because I would have told them the story. I would have told them about me and alcohol, about their grandfather they've never met, about alcohol, and the relationships of alcohol in the family, and what I need them to know, because I've never had those types of conversations with my father. I've had conversations with my mom, more like longings and desires as growing up as a kid, watching my mom sort of struggle because my dad was an alcoholic, right? I remember times where my mom and I and my brother, it would just be us, and we would end up driving up to the church, and the village church, and, it would just be us kneeling in the church, and my mom asking us to pray that my dad quit drinking, and it was those types of moments, in addition to my mom, arguing and being upset with him and stuff, that really informed me how that was a problem in the house. I mean, I lived with it so much that by the time I was in the 6th grade, I had already heard enough talk about my mom thinking about divorcing my dad, right? So by the time I was in the 6th grade, I too was like already voting for that option. When are you going to divorce dad? And she didn't realize it. I can tell in her look that she was kind of shocked when I would bring it up. But she said things enough times in the past, in moments, that made me that way. And, not good. And, for me, just about a year ago, I could no longer tolerate what I had been drinking. I had been drinking things like bourbon, and it just looked like I was out having a cup of coffee. I would enjoy a beverage, and then I would go on my way. There was nothing about me kind of getting drunk, nothing like that. It was just nothing. And then it hit a point where I was having drinks, and then I was getting kind of wasted. And that's when I realized it isn't doing anything for me. I can't handle it the way I used to. For some reason, something's changed. And, my wife was open and honest with me too, that, the way I presented myself at that moment reminded her of my dad. And I couldn't say anything. I couldn't argue, and it was real. And it hurt me that I had gotten that way, because all those memories of being a kid watching my own mom deal with it had come back. And this time it was me that was my dad, and my wife was my mom, and I didn't want that stuff to come back around. I needed to cut it and kill it, right? Cut it and kill it, and not have the history repeat itself. Create change in the line, right? Yeah, I mean, and the sucky thing about when you're in it is, and you're dealing with like poor health, it's hard to escape unless you really, something happens. And for me, I was fortunate for that moment to happen, for me to realize that this is no longer helping me. This is not serving me. I can't tolerate this, and I'm not going to go another day, another night where I'm just kind of getting wasted, right? I got wasted, and I was wasted and upset about myself being wasted. It's the worst thing. It's like killing your own buzz. I fought it. It was awful. But when you're in it, and you don't have that moment of escape yet, you're like for me, my health, I put on weight. I wasn't feeling myself. I felt like I was older than I actually was. I felt like I was losing hair, and my eyes were bloodshot, and just things about me were off. And I knew that, well, there's nothing I'm doing to improve my health that's going to counter any of this. I've got to make changes. I snored at night, and my abdomen hurt when I lay a certain way, and and when I slept, and awful. My clothes obviously weren't fitting, and the clothes they weren't fit on me. I mean, and I would walk around in these clothes and not feel like I was in my own body, and it was awful. I mean, one of these days I'm going to use this material to sort of put my thoughts into in a clear manner, and use it and share it with others, the kids. But right now it's like I I needed to talk about it before I forget that I need to talk about it. Because every moment that I walk around and reminded that I'm doing okay, I'm doing better, and I'm loving the sobriety, you know, I just need to lock it in my mind that, yes, right? And I'm talking about it, and I'm not just thinking about it, because it's important. It's important, and I'm letting you guys know, and I'm not the only one in this world that's ever done it, but just count me in as someone else you might know who's kind of going through it and looking forward to, you know, a healthier life moving forward without alcohol. And if you or somebody you know, is wondering what that could look like, maybe I'm an example. Not the best example, but an example. Because if somebody like me can kind of pull it through, maybe you or someone that you know, you can count on that. If it's been bothering them every now and again, that it can be something that they can do as well. So anyways, that's my public service announcement. That's all I got. Gonna do a little fitness chat, add it to the conversation earlier about booze. Right? I don't know. If somebody's tuning in and they're familiar with the podcast already, or they tune in and they're like, okay, it says somewhere regarding this podcast that there's something to do with NSNG lifestyle, or low carb, and stuff like that. I guess I could talk a little bit about that, and how I'm going to go about it is I'm going to kind of spring off of the whole alcohol part, where for a long time I knew what to eat, and despite knowing what I should stay away from, it goes back to not caring, mindset, and the alcohol, one way or another, the sugar, the carbs, all that stuff, and whatever sort of depression kind of kicked in here and there, all played a part, right? And now, being free of alcohol and clearer mind, the stuff that I already know, I get to relearn, in a way, revisit and re-experience. And that's important, because it's kind of cocky of me to walk around and think yeah, I know, and yet, my pants aren't fitting right? I'm snoring, and I'm having issues here and there. It's like knowing and doing, they were separated, and now, so I'm feeling great. Almost a year sober. That, to me, was getting this far. Was great. Even if it meant that I was just cutting alcohol and I wasn't my best physically and nutritionally, I was at least there, giving my liver a chance to recover. Then, now, and I talked about it an episode or two ago, more than a month in with really being intentional with my nutrition. And some folks might wonder, well, give me an example, tell me what that's like. You can't just say I'm eating clean, because that's going to mean different for different people. So I'm talking about NSNG, no sugar, no grains, right? That level as a base, meaning as an Asian dude, I'm not eating rice, right? I've been here before where I've cut rice, but I'm back, right? And I'm cutting rice. Cut bread, crackers, pizza crust, wheat. I cut wheat. I cut rice. I cut other grains, right? So then what is it that I have to eat? And I've just been eating meat. So this is where my NSNG evolves to sort of meat-based carnivore, but not carnivore, which is like strict meat-based, right? But I'm eating things like steak. Oh, steak's awesome. I'm eating stuff like hamburger patties, right? Grass-fed hamburger patties, and those are quick and easy. I'm doing pork shoulder, pork butt. I'm not just doing the pulled pork, but as Lonnie has informed me, pork steaks are delicious, and apparently I was already making them. I didn't know what to call them. I just called them the unpulled pulled pork. The slices. Pork steak sounds way more delicious and not as dumb as my unpulled pulled pork slices. Jesus Christ. Can you imagine going to a restaurant? Hi, I'd like to order the unpulled pulled pork slices, please. Anyways, I'm having pork belly. I'm having sardines from the can in water. I had that today. I had 2 cans and half an avocado and some kimchi on the side. I'll have what else? What else, guys? What else? Oh, I'll have ahi tuna. I'll make sashimi or poke. I think once so far I've had some grilled chicken somewhere. I can't remember what else. I've had grilled salmon. So you get the picture, right? I'm keeping away from like the sugary sauces and glazes and dips and condiments and things. So I'm really looking at the meat, right? The fish, the meat, done, right? And veggie, not so much. Fruits, yes. I'm talking about blueberries, strawberries, avocados. I haven't had a bunch of olives this go around. I've just kind of like, I'm not feeling it yet, but maybe, I don't know, maybe next week I'll get some olives. Dill pickle spears I enjoy, I and the pickle juice too. So it's not a whole lot of exciting, and when the family decides to order takeout, right, I'm cool, I won't, right? If we're traveling and the family's having stuff that's, from fast food places, and I know that I need to get something, then I'm just having meat patties, right? Just to get through, but sometimes I'll plan ahead and I'll just trickle fat. I'll have some avocados tucked away. I'll have a jar of coconut oil tucked away. I'll put that in my coffee with some heavy cream, and I'll just sort of trickle the coffee in the fat, and I'll be good, right? And I know that when I can get to an ideal place to actually get something good, like the hotel breakfasts that we've been into, I'll gladly grab their hard-boiled eggs that they prepare. And I'll look for their little things of butter and make sure that it's like real cream butter, and I'll get some of that. So, and salt, and their coffee, black. And so it's not a big menu, but I like to think it packs a punch, right? And does the job. How does it do the job? Well, I am being fed, I'm getting my nutrition, and I'm able to also have enough energy to do exercise. So yes, what it does is it does put me in a state of ketosis, right? And whatever, right? Because it has to happen. If I'm going to break down my stored fats as energy, that's going to have to happen. What's the term? what's the term? What is it? Lonnie, help me out. Mark, help me out. Was it lipolysis? Something like that? The breakdown of like fat cells into like fatty acids? I don't know what the heck. But just if something's going to break down, right? And I want to break down that the fat cells or shrink them down, whatever it takes for me to actually reduce my fat portion of my body composition. That's what I want to do. But I've been also working out, doing a lot of strength training. So even if I'm in a state of ketosis here and there and I'm not having a lot of extra carbs, I am still fueling the way I need to fuel to one, burn fat, two, build strength. And it's boring. It can be viewed as boring, but it's also simple and it works. And I can't wait to see the next couple of months where I'm at. And I can't help but be excited to also, what would I report back to you guys on by that time? So I just wanted to cover a little bit of that. Yes, coffee is still important, and I have cut back on my coffee, but I still trickle coffee. So I still have coffee, but I don't go crazy like quadruple espressos. Okay, now that's all I got. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Check you later on the next one. Go out, run something. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Ruel's Running Podcast with Ruel. If you like what you just heard, share it with your friends and your enemies. Also, be sure to check out the site over at ruelsrunning.com. This has been another Coffee with Heavy Cream production. Join us next time for another silly show of Ruel's Running Podcast.